What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for October 27, 2023. I am Graham G. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying your Halloween weekend so far. Not really the best edition of SmackDown on Friday. I've enjoyed the show largely for the last couple of weeks. This was not a great show. Wasn't a bad show, but wasn't really an overly eventful show outside of what happened in the opening segment with Roman Reigns and LA Knight signing the contract, making their match official for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. That's a mouthful. At Crown Jewel next weekend. Quick note on that. First of all, I'm not doing a SmackDown audio review next week because the pay-per-view's so early on Saturday afternoon. I never typically do a SmackDown audio review the weekend of SmackDown, or rather of the Saudi Arabian pay-per-views. The second thing, I don't know if they taped the second SmackDown last night. I would think they did. That's typically what they do before the Saudi Arabia shows or like a UK show the next day. They'll tape the subsequent SmackDown that airs before the Saudi Arabia show the week before, which would be last night. I don't know that they did. I didn't watch the show live. I looked on Twitter, not really looking for spoilers for next week. I don't want to be spoiled, but I would think that they did tape the show in Milwaukee last night, because otherwise there's no SmackDown next week, and there is, because they announced Bianca Belair versus Bayley next week on the show. So I would think that they taped the show, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Either way, we open up this episode with Roman Reigns and LA Knight, as I mentioned, signing the contract for their championship match at Crown Jewel next Saturday. Really good stuff here. It didn't overstay its welcome. LA Knight looked like he belonged, and that was my top takeaway here. And that really should have been the top takeaway for everyone watching this. Before Roman Reigns can even complete his entrance, LA Knight interrupted him while Roman Reigns was in the middle of the ramp, holding up the championship with Paul Heyman. LA Knight just walked right the fuck by him, with his music blaring and whatnot, with LA Knight's music blaring, and interrupted Roman's, and he walked right by him without even acknowledging him. And it's a great message. Like, Roman Reigns is always saying, acknowledge me, acknowledge me. LA Knight didn't even look at him as he walked right by him, straight to the ring, taking his seat at the head of the table for that contract signing, which I thought was great. We don't see anyone try to, or at least successfully upstage Roman Reigns very often. We got that in this segment. LA Knight not only looked like a main eventer here, he looked like he was on Roman's level. Now, I think it's safe to say he's not walking out of Saudi Arabia next Saturday, the new champion, but they're doing everything right with Roman, or with LA Knight rather, to make it feel like he has a legitimate shot of dethroning Roman Reigns on that show. And making it feel like that if he loses that match, and when he loses that match, he's not losing a lot in defeat. Unless it's a total squash or the match is just fucking awful. I mean, LA Knight will be in a worse spot on the card coming out of that match. There's no higher than the top championship and facing Roman Reigns, obviously. But I do have some faith with how over he is right now, and I don't see it dissipating overnight. I do have faith coming out of that match and coming out of that inevitable loss to Roman Reigns, he'll be just fine with how over he is and how he carries himself, and hopefully there is a plan in place to do something with him coming out of that show. But I thought this was good stuff, though. As Roman Reigns walked away, because he didn't really do a lot of the talking in the segment, it was mostly LA Knight, and I would have liked more of a back and forth between the two on the mic here, but it was really just LA Knight kind of making his points, because Roman Reigns brought up how this is his first championship match, and you're a rookie, I have the experience, I have the advantage, blah, blah, blah. LA Knight also acknowledged, speaking of acknowledging, he mentioned that his rookie year, Roman Reigns was talking about suffering succotash, which, funnily enough, was not even year one for Roman Reigns. That was like fucking year 3. Whereas LA Knight, in his first year in the main roster, is challenging for the championship in Saudi Arabia against the biggest star in the entire company. So, not even comparable, really. Although Roman Reigns was headlining pay-per-views as part of the Shield and facing and beating big names. So, I mean, there is an argument to be made. Who had the better rookie year? Probably Roman Reigns, because LA Knight's rookie year is over. His rookie year on the main roster really started in April of 2022, but I understand his point. This was really good stuff, though, as Roman Reigns walked away. LA Knight still standing there. Jimmy Uso attempting to ambush LA Knight from behind. Gets his attack thwarted by Knight, who puts Jimmy Uso through the table in the ring. So that actually set up the main event of Knight versus Jimmy Uso. I thought this would be the last that we would see of Knight and Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso on the show. We got them again at the end of the show. I would have just saved Knight and Jimmy Uso for next week's SmackDown. I get the feeling, though, they're probably just going to phone it in with a video package. Roman Reigns is in the fucking building. So, I mean, they could have done something with Roman. Whatever they did with Roman here, they could have easily done on Friday. Maybe they felt like what they did with Knight, laying out Roman Reigns, was too good for that go-home show, because it's a tape show. may not want it spoiled, and it wasn't like he beat him, but he did lay him out with the BFT, which was a pretty big deal. Not many people do that to Roman Reigns. Maybe they wanted to do it here to get a maximum amount of exposure on that angle, because next week, not a lot of people might be watching, and it's too close to the pay-per-view for it to really, really matter. So maybe that was the mindset. But I thought that was a good way to open the show. Our first match in the show saw the Street Profits, new music and all, taking on the LWO, Santos Escobar and Carlito. Couple notes here. Carlito replacing Rey Mysterio. I guess Carlito in storyline went to Rey and said, hey, I want revenge on Montez and Angelo for laying me out backstage a couple of weeks ago. I won in the match. He replaced Rey. And it made more sense. Rey should have really never been in that match to begin with. I know the LWO is currently feuding with the Profits and Bobby Lashley, but Rey also has his other side story, his main story going on right now with Logan Paul over the United States Championship. And because Logan attacked Rey Mysterio, I didn't think Logan Paul would be on the show. And good thing they didn't advertise him either. He was only really on for like 15 seconds attacking Rey backstage. He attacked Rey Mysterio, and that caused Carlito to go to his aid. Santos did say, listen, go check on Rey, I can handle this. So it's not like Carlito went off on his own, Santos was pissed, and they really teased the tension there. They didn't do that. So I do think a Santos Escobar heel turn is coming. I think he's building frustration with the losses racking up, and he's just not really been winning a lot lately. And he might have some resentment towards Carlito and Rey Mysterio, really being the main reason why he's been losing so much lately. So I still hope that's the direction they're going in. We didn't really see that here, but you can make an argument, well, he lost this match because of Rey, because of Carlito. So, I mean, that, again, wasn't really the message here, but I could see that being where this is going ultimately. The Profits did pick up the victory as they should have. It was a good match, albeit a bit formulaic, really nothing out of the ordinary about it, but I thought they had a decent match here. The other thing, like I mentioned, the Profits, new music and all, they finally replaced their music they've had for, 6 years now? And I love the music. I love the Profits entrance. I always have. It was time for a change, though. They couldn't come out to that same song as heels. Maybe they can go back to it at some point when they go inevitably be, a babyface tag team again, or they break up and reunite as a babyface tag team. Maybe not, because it was a CFO song, and it's a great CFO song, and a lot of people do not have their CFO music anymore, so there's a good chance we may never hear it again. This music isn't an upgrade, but it kind of sounds like I heard it after the match was over. They say we want the smoke in the chorus, which is cool. So it is a custom-made song for them, and it sounds heelish. I actually don't mind the song. Maybe it'll grow on me. It's not awful. It's not as bad as Carlito's new music, which is just a total downgrade, a definite downgrade. But it's not bad, and I appreciate they're kind of completing the heel turn for the Profits with the new gear, the new entrance, the new music. That was long overdue. We had Shotzi taking on one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Chelsea Green. Shotzi was talking to Nick Aldis backstage before the show. They aired this video here, talking about how she hosted Halloween Havoc on Tuesday with Scarlett. She's going to do it again on NXT this coming week. And Chelsea and Piper Niven interrupted. This is probably the most screen time I think the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions have gotten in fucking at least all year, if not in years. I mean, Chelsea and Piper were on Raw this week, beating Natalya and Nikki Cross in a tag team match. They were backstage at NXT on Tuesday, being challenged to a title match for next week on Night 2 of Halloween Havoc by Jacy Jayne and Thea Hale, and they appeared again here. And they're going to be on Raw again because we found out via an advertisement it's going to be our annual Trick or Street fight is going to be Chelsea Green versus Natalya. And then on Tuesday is the title match that I just mentioned between Green and Niven against Jacy Jayne and Thea Hale. So they have a lot to look forward to, which is cool. The champions do. The titles don't really mean anything still. They really haven't had, before Tuesday's NXT coming up next week, I don't think they've had a single defense of those tag team titles on television. And not even when Chelsea was holding them with Sonya do I think they had a single defense of those championships on television. And Chelsea's been champion now for months. So, whatever. The match was kind of an impromptu match. Not a match many people cared about. It was really just a random match here. Shotzi did pick up the win, as she should have. She beat Bayley like a month or two ago. Really went nowhere. She's been on the show on and off since then. The consistency with Shotzi is really where they're lacking. I mean, Shotzi's not great in the ring, but if they really want to get her over, and she's a fresher face, and I appreciate the attempt, I like Shotzi, they need to have her on the show more often doing stuff like this. Albeit beating Chelsea Green doesn't really mean much. Everyone has beaten Chelsea Green, but still a win is a win, and she got on TV. So kind of a filler match. Didn't really accomplish anything, but it was fine for what it was. We had John Cena out next, talking about how, and this was kind of ridiculous, and I love Cena being around, and his mic skills and promos are usually pretty good. This was a tad over the top, which is not very... It's nothing new for John Cena, who has been very over the top in the past with this sort of stuff. He said, coming up at Crown Jewel, because the match with Solo Sikoa was made official by People magazine earlier in the day on Friday, so that match is actually happening at the show, which is great. He said, John Cena did, that he fears that if he loses that match, he might lose the respect of the audience. And he related this slump that he finds himself in right now, not having won a singles match since 2018. He related that to almost being fired by WWE his rookie year on the main roster in 2002. I mean, it's not even fucking comparable. I thought this was ridiculous. The funny thing is that he's acting all depressed about not having won a singles match in so long, yet he didn't acknowledge it until now. It's been 5 years. He didn't realize this a year, 2, 3, 4 years in, and he's only realizing it now. I know they're using that as the story for this match. I kind of worry that Cena might win. Solo's not buried if Cena wins, but Solo's already lost 3 singles matches by pinfall this year to Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and LA Knight. The LA Knight one was literally 2 weeks ago. I would not have Solo turn around and get beaten again by John Cena, who does not need the win. Cena should win a match at some point. It is ridiculous. He hasn't won a singles match in so long. But to me, it should not come at the expense of Solo Sikoa. He can beat the fucking Miz or get his win back over Austin Theory at this point. It doesn't matter to me. I would not have him beat Solo Sikoa, though, at Crown Jewel. The match could go either way, because they're really hamming it up like, oh, Cena's in a slump. And I think it would also be weird if Crown Jewel is it for Cena, and it may not be. I mean, the actor strike isn't over. It may not be over anytime soon, per reports. Cena could opt to stick around for a little bit longer through Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble. Very possible until the fucking actor strike is officially over. He could be around for a little bit longer. So he could lose here and then win his next singles match at Survivor Series or on SmackDown or whatever it might be. But I would not have him beat Solo Sikoa in Saudi Arabia. I think that'd be silly. I just think it'd be dumb for him to beat Sikoa and then just leave. If he's not going to be back anytime soon, I feel like that'd be dumb. But the exchange here with Heyman was fine, and Solo came in to lay out Cena. It was a well-done segment, but Cena's narrative about, oh, I'm going to lose the respect of the audience, and you may never like me again. I haven't had to fight for this sort of, my relationship with the fans in years. It's like, dude, people have not liked you for years. Maybe not right now, but where was this speech fucking 10 years ago when people were hating on his ass? 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I didn't mind the segment, but the stuff that he was saying was kind of ridiculous. Bianca was also out after that. Did we have a match after that? I don't think we did, but if we did, let me double check my... we had Dragon Lee and Cedric Alexander. How could I forget? So we had Dragon Lee and Cedric Alexander after that in a really good match. Cedric stepped up to Dragon Lee during a backstage interview earlier in the show and said, hey, if you want to test yourself, face me. I mean, I kind of got over through the Cruiserweight Classic, and the crowd was chanting, sign Cedric, whatever. Please sign Cedric. The funny thing about that, I mean, it was an amazing moment. That was 7 fucking years ago. Where does the time go, dude? I mean, that feels like it was not that long ago, and it's already been 7 years. That's wild. I'm honestly kind of shocked Cedric's still in the company. I love Cedric. I think the guy's great. It was clear years ago they have no plans for him. The only reason he got included in Hurt Business was because Bobby and Shelton and MVP went to bat for him. As soon as that group dissolved and it wasn't coming back, that was it for Cedric. And then Shelton got fired, and now Cedric's kind of on his own. He's a free agent, quote-unquote, so they just kind of use him wherever they want him. This was a fun match, though. They got some time. They went in there, did their thing. Dragon Lee won. Good stuff. We also saw, I forgot to mention this earlier, Logan Paul, I mentioned that he attacked Rey Mysterio. I thought that was it for him on SmackDown. It actually wasn't. He didn't come out to the ring or anything, but he was walking backstage, and him and Kevin Owens went face-to-face. And then Kevin Owens went face-to-face with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory and laid him out. I kind of figured Theory and Grayson against Kevin would be the next program for Kevin, his first real feud on SmackDown, because he mentioned him at the end of that interview with Kathy Kelly last week, so that makes sense. But it was interesting, though. I don't know what the source was. I forget. I don't know if it was one of those weird fake sources that is usually not all that reliable, BWE or whatever, or if it was Fightful. I think it might have been Fightful. I don't remember. Fightful is usually a lot more reliable than those other sources. But I had read earlier in the day that Kevin and Logan Paul was something they were considering for down the line. Triple H has been doing a lot of long-term storytelling with like the subtle teases for future matchups. I feel like that's what this was. And I don't know if it's the Mania match. I would do Knight and Logan Paul at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. I would like Logan Paul to be more of a regular on the show if he's going to win the U.S. Championship next weekend. I doubt he will be. But that could be the match for maybe not Survivor Series. That might be too soon. Maybe the Royal Rumble. We get Owens and Logan Paul for the United States Championship. And then Logan retains against him. And then we get Knight beating him for the belt maybe at WrestleMania. That to me feels like a WrestleMania match. And that's what I would do. Just wanted to mention that, though. So after the Dragon Lee and Cedric match, that Dragon Lee won. I think I mentioned that. Bianca came out to address the audience, her first promo in a number of months, showing the footage of Damage CTRL laying her out backstage. The last time we saw her before last week was 2 months ago on SmackDown, about 2.5 months ago, right after SummerSlam. And Damage CTRL laid her out. And she said she wants revenge. I feel like we're hearing the same promo from a fucking year ago when she was feuding with Damage CTRL for like 6 months. But she says that she wants revenge on Bayley. She wants revenge on Io. And she wants back the WWE Women's Championship. So a pretty simple mission statement promo. She's going to face Bayley next week. She's going to then face Io on Saturday at Crown Jewel for the WWE Women's Championship. That was the other announcement coming out of this. And at that point, she will be done with Damage CTRL, which I thought she was done with Damage CTRL a year ago, but obviously not. I'm looking forward to Bianca and Io. They had a great match on pay-per-view back at Backlash in May. The Puerto Rican crowd, that was amazing. The way they kind of reacted to the match, and specifically Io, gave it an amazing atmosphere that it probably would not have had otherwise elsewhere. Maybe it'll have the same atmosphere in Saudi Arabia. I kind of doubt it, but it should be a great match, though, because they always work really well together, so I'm looking forward to that. And then the main event, which I mentioned earlier, LA Knight knocking off Jimmy Uso in singles competition. Not an amazing match. It was a pretty average main event by and large. They got some time. More time than they would have if they were on Fox. This show aired on FS1, which I kind of forgot about until like 20 minutes into the show. I didn't watch the show live. I watched Monsters, Inc. last night. Best animated flick of all time. And I checked my DVR to make sure it was recording. It did, thankfully. So I didn't really miss anything when I watched it later on. But it was an average main event. And usually when they're on Fox, the show has to end at 9:57 Eastern time due to the news coming on right after. That wasn't the case here. They were on FS1, so I checked my DVR, and instead it ended like 2 hours in. I'm like, oh, okay, so it ended on the 10 o'clock mark on the dot because there's no news to follow them this week on FS1. So I thought that was cool. The match was fine. The crowd, which I think will be the case in Saudi Arabia as well, really made this match. Jimmy Uso was not amazing in the ring. Neither is LA Knight. Jimmy Uso's great in the ring with his tag team partner, but on his own, he's not the most interesting or dynamic performer. LA Knight, even in the ring, for as great as he is not as dynamic in the ring as other people on that roster. So I kind of worry a little bit that the Roman Reigns match it won't be like a great match. What I think will really sell that match will be the crowd reaction, the crowd response, the near falls, the drama. It's not the same thing. But Rock and Hogan from WrestleMania 18, that's not a technical masterpiece by any means. But they went in there, captured the crowd, and that was really what people remember about that match. Not that Knight and Roman's going to be this all-time classic, but I do think they can go in there and have a great match based on the crowd alone, as opposed to any rest holds they do or don't do or any fucking flips or shit like that. Roman's had those matches before with other opponents, and they've been great. I do think this match can also be equally entertaining for other reasons. And we kind of saw that here. The crowd at one point, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with because it was anywhere but awesome. It was nowhere near awesome, but they did chant, "This is awesome," during this match. Was it an awesome main event? No, it was a good main event, but the crowd really likes LA Knight, and Jimmy Uso has heat, so they thought it was an awesome main event, and that's really all that matters, honestly. But Knight won clean, pinned him. Roman came out to ambush Knight afterward. Knight sidestepped him unlike a couple weeks ago on SmackDown when Roman laid him out at the end of the show. This week, different story. Lays out Roman Reigns with a BFT. Closing up the show, not holding the championship. I mean, Knight's not winning next weekend. It would have been nice to get that visual of Knight holding the title. Unless he did, I'm just forgetting. But I'm pretty sure he did not. But still a great way to go off the show. This was the LA Knight show this week, as it is most weeks. Not really a lot worth watching for in the middle there. Kind of a ho-hum show in the middle. But the Knight, Roman, Bloodline stuff with the Roman Reigns backstage segments continue to carry the blue brand. Now, Roman Reigns, we found out earlier in the day, not made official, but the word is per the Wrestling Observer, is that Roman Reigns will not be in action at Survivor Series. He will not be on that show. The first Survivor Series he'll be missing since 2018, I think, when he had leukemia. He was at 2019, and even during the Tribal Chief heel run, in 2020, he was there, beating Drew McIntyre in the brand versus brand match. Same thing in 2021, facing Big E, beating him there as well. And then last year, he had the War Games match. I don't think Roman Reigns has lost at Survivor Series in, maybe since, I think, 2016, because he won there in 2017 with the Shield, and then in 2019 he won the Brand Supremacy Raw, SmackDown, NXT tag team match. I think he was like the sole survivor for his team. So he hasn't been beaten at Survivor Series since 2016. Even if he wrestled at Survivor Series this year, he's probably not losing, especially if it's a singles match. It would probably be a tag team match. So that tells me they're going to wait until closer to the Rumble, I guess, to do AJ and Roman. I don't know why they didn't just do it at Crown Jewel. Maybe because Luke Gallows is out and they want to do the trios matches with the Bloodline and the OC. Like anyone who really gives a shit at this point, because Gallows and Anderson, who gives a fuck? But, it's an option. It's a possibility. Who knows? So, anyway, it was a fine show. I thought it was a decent addition to SmackDown on Friday. Not the greatest show, not the worst show, just kind of there. But I did like LA Knight and the way he was portrayed on the show as being the guy and feeling like the guy. Again, he's not winning at Crown Jewel, but they've done everything right with him going into that pay-per-view, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. And I'm looking forward to the match just in general. So like I mentioned earlier, no SmackDown audio review next week. The pay-per-view is at like 1 p.m. Eastern. I might be out that day anyway, so I won't be able to watch the show live, I don't think, regardless, until later on that night. But I'll be watching that a little bit later on Saturday. Therefore, no SmackDown audio review for the show next week. So we'll be back in 2 weeks here on the channel. Thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, folks. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.